I thought I'd show you guys my 50 Years of James Bond Movie Posters book. This was at the time for the 50th anniversary of James Bond. This includes every single poster from all the films. Really, really pretty cool. And it also has a lot of rare ones that weren't never released, like test ones. I love that they put all the girls in all the posters. Now, this is for Thunderball, and I thought it was really clever, the marketing. Look up, look down, look out. Here comes the biggest Bond of them all, Thunderball. Man, at the time it really was. I do love Thunderball. And the posters for Thunderball are in my opinion, I think they're the best Bond posters because there's so much detail in them. And they were like, this is the biggest Bond of all. The most detail, most money. Look at that. It's awesome. So badass. Now, you see, this book acknowledges the Never Say Never Again movie that came out in the 80s. But the Ultimate Edition James Bond DVD sets do not. Interesting stuff here, folks. Badass. Yeah, here's the posters they didn't use, some of them. That one's awesome. They should have used that one. I also love some of the Pierce Brosnan ones. Well, The World Is Not Enough and GoldenEye's posters. Oh, so awesome. No fears, no limits, no substitutes. That's right. The World Is Not Enough is one of my favorite Bond films, and I think it's underrated. It made the most money at the box office at the time in 1999. But I disagree with Bond fans. I do think it is Pierce Brosnan's best Bond film. There was the rule of three when it came to Bond, that the third Bond film per actor was when that was his best Bond film. You got Goldfinger with Connery, George Lazenby never got a second movie, Roger Moore with The Spy Who Loved Me, Pierce Brosnan with The World's Not Enough, and Daniel Craig with Skyfall. Skyfall was Craig's third Bond film, which some consider his best. I really love this poster because it's like the chick is on fire, right? So you see this her silhouette, but then you can also see Bond's silhouette here. Cool, or should I say, fire. The Die Another Day posters are debatable. I mean, for the time, they're pretty cool. Pardon the pun. Yeah, pretty cool. Definitely early 2000s. They're kind of cool, but a little dull. Now, I feel mixed about Daniel Craig as James Bond. He's actually my least actor who played James Bond. I like him, don't get me wrong, but he's too depressing in the Bond films he's in. And he's just... I don't think he's a great James Bond. I'm sorry. I like him. I think he's a decent Bond, but his movies are better than him as James Bond, to be honest. His movies are really good as James Bond. They really are. He's a pretty good Bond. He is. But honestly, out of all the actors, I actually would consider him my least favorite. That's just my opinion. But even though his movies are great as James Bond, his posters are not. And it has nothing to do with Craig, of course, or anything like that. But the marketing was so big, but the posters are so shitty. The Craig era Bond posters are so fucking shitty. And this is a new rant in this video, and I hate him. Look at this poster. It's just it's all gray. That's it. There's like nothing to it, really. More gray, very dull. That one's okay. It's kind of cool. It's better than the others. It's just too dull. It's so much gray. I kind of like what they were doing here, but... And this is a big problem with a lot of gray, right? Yeah. See, this is the problem with modern day movie posters. The problem began in the 2000s, and it got worse in the 2010s, and now it's still bad. I saw other videos talking about this. Check it out, people. Look at old movie posters, and they just have absolutely horrible movie posters. Man, it's a shame, really. It's just, look at this shit. It's awful. Ugh, so drab. So, that's a big problem with the movie posters for the 2000s and onward. Like, you look at old movie posters from, like, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s. They were paintings. They actually paid someone paintings to make them. Now, the logos from movies, new movies and shit, they all look really bland, just bland text. Just very, very cut and dry. Really bad shit. This book ends with Skyfall because it was the 50th anniversary of Bond at the time.